Cox, we're gonna take up, man. I got so much hate mail because how could you and B Cox do the South? And y'all didn't talk, y'all didn't come down. I said,
Give it
guys,
up, man. Give it up. Give us a chance, please. God damn.
I said, me and B Cox, this is a continued series. I said it wasn't the end. We're just getting warmed up. But for you impatient ass people, we're gonna come down and pull up on the MIA. We're gonna come pull up on the MIA, and we're gonna start with somebody, man. Again, hey, this man here gave me some smiles in my childhood from his videos. This man, I was in high school when he was coming up there, man, doing shows at the Riviera in Chicago. For those that know, them damn Luke dancers. Hey, man, that made a young man's heart glad to see them Luke dancers live. I knew then to leave Chicago. I knew then it was something great outside of the Shy when I saw Uncle Luke. Let's talk about Uncle Luke promoted debauchery, hedonism. He was all about the party and all of that, but not a misogynist. He wasn't a misogynist. It wasn't that. It was really just promoting Miami bass music. It's a sexy vibe city down there. That's just how they rock. But he again, father and grandfather, so many artists that come from down there, man, in MIA. Let's talk about the legacy of, man, Uncle Luke real quick, brother.
Oh, man. Man, listen, we have to thank Uncle Luke for so much beyond just his thick women. Like those C says on Players Anthem, Junior Mafia click thick like Luke dancers. Man, what Luke did and what Two Live Crew did. Let's start with the first thing we need to thank them for.
Okay.
Let's thank them for the fact that, rap music can continue to be heard and seen. And even if it's rap music that's obscene, falls under the protected First Amendment of freedom of speech.
Come on now. He fought.
You don't remember this. And I was a little young during this time too, but I remember when you had to watch the news and it made evening news where people are having these court battles about whether or not Two Live Crew's music and rap music like that, whether it should be banned or not. And they took it to the court. They fought it and they won. And they were a part of what I call the unholy trinity in rap music during that time. Luke and Two Live Crew, NWA, and Ghetto Boys. That's who the censors were fighting during that time because of the content of their music. But because of them fighting for freedom of speech, and they talked about this a lot in their music, and Luke used to talk about it all the time. It's like, man, y'all fighting against our method of self-expression, man. You can't do that. You can't censor that. And what did it lead to? It helped to lead to the fact that those parental advisory stickers being put on your music. It's like, all right, now we're not going to censor you, but we're going to at least let people know that if you buying this music, parents, if you're buying this for your kids, you might want to pay attention to it because it may not be something you want them to listen to right now. But it allowed them to be able to do that. So we got to thank Uncle Luke for that. Let's thank him for the fact that through the popularization of Miami-based music,
come on, B Cox,
it helped to create movements all around the South, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, let's talk about who was linked up with Uncle Luke during that time with Miami-based and his machine down there.
Okay.
Young gentleman that was a young DJ from Georgia, from Atlanta, linked up with Uncle Luke and eventually came back to Georgia and helped to create a phenomenon of music himself. Talking about none other than Lil Jon, right? So the influence and stuff that he did with Miami-based music helped to inspire Lil Jon to help to create a style of his own based off of what he was doing with Uncle Luke back then. And now look what we have. Evolution of crunk music. Very distinct to the music of Atlanta. And let's not even talk about the fact that Miami-based music then inspired Atlanta to do their own version of bass music in the early to mid 90s as well.
Good point.
So Bass All Stars, that stuff that was incredibly regional and stuff, regional as well. Things that are undertones for everything that happened. So Miami bass gets to Atlanta bass music, which eventually will lead to things like crunk, which eventually leads us to trap. So the progression of this from influences from one style in the late 80s all the way in now to 2024 have all roots all the way back to Miami and Uncle Luke, man. And let's call Uncle Luke for what it is than what he did. This was not music meant to quote unquote uplift the people or anything. It was music basically for partying, for fun, for sex, for debauchery, and it was self-expression. And Luke really did help to put Miami on the map when it came to hip hop. And so much so to the fact that you had other acts coming out of Miami afterwards that if you was going to make it, you kind of had to go through Luke at that point, you know? I mean, shoot, Pitbull said it on, from the county of Dade. And he talked about some when the king, he said, Luke's the king down here. This was 20 something years after they had made their mark. He's still the king down in Miami.
Yeah,
still the king down in Miami. So let's give Luke his flower for being not just necessarily given his area an identity for the music that they had down during that time to help to create a culture during that time of what became very uniquely not just Miami but South Florida overall. But then that influence stretched out many places in the country, especially in the South, right? Like, shoot, I know particularly talking to my older cousins and older family members and people and my friends and their older brothers and stuff like that, seeing how the way they got down in Miami at those Luke concerts and those Luke freak shows and that made them want to go down to Miami, right?
Hell
And
yeah.
party down in Miami, right?
Hell yeah.
So it made it big. So you look at Luke, man, and then what comes and develops out of Miami from the late 80s into the 90s is that you have other artists that eventually come out of that area as well. Miami starts to develop their own sound, their own style. So as we get into the mid 90s, into the late 90s, it helps to help a movement from without a South Florida and Miami that gave them their own unique identity, which was similar, just like the way you could say that Atlanta had their identity, New Orleans had theirs, Houston had theirs, Memphis had theirs, Chicago had theirs. That's what it was.
Right.
He gave South Florida an identity. He was Miami to the day that he died. And he's still running things down there, man. Still a very big part of the community, hip hop wise, and of the community abroad. All the stuff he does, with the nasty stuff and everything. Yeah, but he is still very involved with the community down there, man. Stuff he does with the youth football teams down there. Yeah. You supported the Miami Hurricanes football program down there. I mean, he wants to see his community do better. So we thank him for that as well. So yeah, there's lots of props that we have to give to Uncle Luke, man, and what he did with 2 Live Crew for censor wise, for style wise, and for helping to create an identity for that area down there, man. So you can't say enough about Uncle Luke and what he has done and what he helped to spur there and in other places in the country based off of what he did down there.
Because well said, man. You brought up some salient points, man. I forgot, he did fight that censorship for hip hop to be able to, hey, you can't take away our First Amendment, man. We have the freedom of speech. You can't take that from us, man. And he doesn't get the recognition, by this obviously, the contemporary artists because maybe they are ignorant to the fact that he had to fight those battles for them. But man, I'm glad you highlighted that. That's gonna be something that we make sure that we really accentuate the fact that Luke did do that, man. So shout out to Uncle Luke for that. Because before we get out of Florida, man, because we got